So I did my undergraduate at the University of Nottingham in American Studies and History. And in my third year, I did a year abroad in Charleston in South Carolina. And during this year, I spoke to lots of different people from different backgrounds and learned a lot about the racial discrimination that African Americans experienced. I then went on to write my undergrad dissertation on mass incarceration in the US and decided to pursue a career in human rights and criminal justice. So then when I was researching postgraduates in human rights, I saw the course at Roehampton and thought it perfectly combined the theory of human rights law and the practical legal skills that I would need to practice in the field. And I also really admired that the lecturers weren't just academics, but they were also human rights lawyers, activists, and legal advisors that had first-hand experience in the field. So overall, I just thought the course at Roehampton really appealed to me most. There were lots of really interesting modules that I covered over my master's, including ones on genocide and mass atrocities, campaigning and advocacy, and litigation and social change. I ultimately decided to write my master's thesis on the US's violation of international human rights law in cases of police misconduct, the use of excessive force, and police killings, which is obviously really relevant to what's happening in the US currently. And this topic allowed me to take lots of different elements from my modules and also discuss social movements such as the Black Lives Matter movement and the Say Her Name movement. I also got to look at a lot of police brutality litigation, such as the cases of Michael Brown, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd. And I've written a blog post on my thesis, which is published on the university blog. So if anyone would like to learn more about my research, they can find out more there. So as well as writing my blog for on my thesis, I've also going to be participating in the university's Black History Month this October. Roehampton are looking to run a series of virtual events, such as panels on Black history, Black mental health, a series of talks, such as one on riots, race and religion, quizzes for staff and students, and a traditional Jamaican dance workshop. I'll be joining the panel for a discussion on Do You Mean Black or Do You Mean BAME, which should hopefully be really interesting and informative. And if you want to find out more about the university's Black History Month events, be sure to check out the university's social media pages and also the portal. Now I've completed my master's, I'm looking for a job in human rights, but understandably it's a really difficult time to be looking for a job. I've been applying for roles so far as a legal and policy officer at NGOs such as Liberty and Minority Rights International. And I'm also looking at research roles in university research departments. And one job that I applied for recently, which sounds really interesting, is a position as a research officer at the University of Oxford, as they're launching a death penalty research unit, which is aiming to create a database to record the number of foreign nationals that are being sentenced to death in the Middle East and Asia. The United Nations also have a lot of internship opportunities, and there's lots of different avenues that I could go down, which is good. But my ultimate aim is to work for an international NGO that combines my interest in racial justice and criminal justice. Before doing my master's, when I looked into applying for a role in human rights, a lot of different jobs required a postgraduate degree and years of experience in the field. So doing a master's in human rights and legal practice has definitely put me in a better position to find a job. And I also, as part of my master's, chose the advanced placement module in my second semester. So I was able to complete 2 internships during that time. One was with a charity called User Voice, which works with offenders in prison and on probation to improve rehabilitation services in the UK. And the other was with the Forest Peoples Programme, which is a Indigenous rights organisation. So having done my master's and those 2 internships, I think it's been really helpful to gain experience in the field and just expand my knowledge of human rights law. I would give 3 pieces of advice to current students. The first would be to make sure that you strike the right work and leisure balance, because it's really easy to feel overwhelmed when exams and essays are looming, and it's best just to be organised and plan ahead. Secondly, I'd suggest forming study groups with your peers on your course, because I found it really helpful this year when we had lots of reading to split up the reading. So instead of doing 3 50-page readings each week, you'd only have to do 1, and then you share your notes. So having done that, I think it ensured that I was able to have time to relax whilst also making sure that I covered all the material needed for that next week. And finally, I would advise that students really make the most of their lecturers. I found it really helpful seeing them to talk about essay plans or discuss internship opportunities or just have a general catch up. And I think the lecturers are really there to help you and can do so much for you, both personally and academically. I hope in 5 years' time I'm working abroad for an NGO in a legal department either in the US or South America. I hope that my work involves educating minorities on their rights and ensuring that they're protected and upheld in courts. I'm particularly interested in prisoners' rights and racial justice. So I hope in the future my job has something to do with that and that I have opportunities to travel abroad and ensure that human rights are protected across the world.